Hello and welcome to the session on true false, matching and completion type questions. In the last couple of units, we have been examining objective type items in detail. We looked at the characteristics, uses, advantages and limitations of objective questions in general. We also examined in detail the specific features and construction of an important objective type format, namely multiple choice questions. This unit will cover three other formats of objective items, namely true false questions, matching type questions and completion type questions. Like multiple choice items, true false and matching items belong to recognition or selection type, where students are required to select the right response from the given responses. Completion items, on the other hand, belong to recall or supply type that requires students to recall and supply their responses. Each of these types has its own unique characteristics, construction rules, relative advantages and disadvantages. By the end of this unit, you will be able to state the defining features of true false, matching and completion type questions, understand the major uses of true false, matching and completion type questions, learn the relative advantages and limitations of these three types, understand the important rules to follow when constructing true false, matching and completion questions, learn about the common mistakes to be avoided during their construction. True false questions. True false items, also known as alternative response items, present a declarative sentence which is either correct or incorrect. Students are expected to mark this statement as true or false, right or wrong, correct or incorrect, fact or opinion, agree or disagree, yes or no, etc. Since the most commonly used pair of alternatives is true or false, alternative response items are widely referred to as true false questions. According to some experts, this is a form of reduced multiple choice questions. True false format is typically used when the only possible distractor is the negative of the statement that is being tested. That is to say, in a true false question, either the statement is true or the opposite of the statement is true. Let us consider an example. Here, the first part of the question provides a declarative sentence. The Constitution of India declares India to be a sovereign, socialist, secular, democratic republic. This statement can be either true or false, and students are expected to mark the answer. Using this question, a teacher can ascertain whether students know the fundamental facts about Indian Constitution. Uses of true false questions. True false items are commonly used to measure simple learning outcomes. They can be used to measure the knowledge, comprehension and application levels of cognitive domain in the Bloom's taxonomy. Here are some of the main uses of this type. Number 1, correctness of facts. True false questions can be used to measure the ability of students to identify the correctness of statements of facts, definitions and principles, etc. Look at the example given. Here, the definition of photosynthesis is given as a declarative sentence and students are to identify whether this definition is correct or not. 2. Facts versus opinions. This format can also be used to measure whether students can distinguish between facts and opinions. The ability to distinguish facts from opinions is an important learning outcome because it enables students to think critically about a topic. Let us look at an example. Here, two declarative sentences are given. The first statement is a fact because the Constitution of India is indeed the highest law of our country. but the second statement is not a fact, it is only an opinion. 3. Cause and effect relationship. True false questions help teachers measure the ability of students to recognize cause and effect relationships. Such questions usually contain two propositions in one statement, and students are to identify whether the relationship between these two propositions is true or false. Let us take two statements to understand this further. Statement A contains two propositions: there is no life on Venus and there is no atmosphere on Venus. These two propositions are related, that is, the first proposition is the cause of the second proposition. Statement B also has two propositions: whales are mammals and whales are large. Though these two statements are true, there is no cause and effect relationship between these two propositions. If a student answers these two statements correctly, it means that he or she can recognize cause and effect relationships. 4. Symbol logic. Some symbol aspects of logic can also be measured through true false questions. The example given states that all 8-legged animals are spiders. Here the converse of the statement is true, that is, all spiders are 8-legged animals, but all 8-legged animals are not necessarily spiders. Students have to reach the answer through certain steps of logical thinking which can be tested through this question. Advantages and limitations of true false question. Advantages. True false items are particularly suited for measuring factual recall abilities. The main advantage of this type of questions is that they are relatively easy to construct compared to multiple choice and matching type items. A wide area of content domain can be covered through a large number of true false questions. Also, students can respond to more true false questions than any other type in the given type. Moreover, large groups of students can be tested using true false items. Another advantage of true false questions is that the results obtained from testing can be submitted to item analysis. The quality of the items can be improved based on the analysis. Limitations. Despite these relative advantages, true false questions suffer from a number of limitations. Here are some of them. The greatest limitation of this type is that a student might answer a question correctly by guesswork alone. Even if students mark a statement blindly as true or false, they have 50% chance of getting that answer right. It is difficult for teachers to assess a student's level of achievement based on his or her performance in a true false test. It is difficult to determine whether the student has complete mastery in the subject, or it is a blind guess, or he or she has a level of understanding that lies between these two extremes. Moreover, this excessive chance of guesswork reduces the power of the item to discriminate between high performer and low performer. As the discrimination power of the item decreases, its reliability also decreases. Though true false questions can be used to measure knowledge, comprehension and application levels of Bloom's taxonomy, most teachers use them to measure only the knowledge level. If the teacher is not a skilled test constructor, the scope of true false items is reduced even further into testing trivial facts and bits of information. A major criticism against true false questions is that they tend to induce acquiescence response bias. This means when students are doubtful about correct answer, they tend to respond positively and mark true or yes as the answer. Sometimes teachers may reproduce statements from the textbook verbatim. A student who has memorized textbook portions is likely to answer such questions correctly, even though he or she might not have understood the concept fully. The results obtained from a true false test do not yield any diagnostic information. As a result, teachers cannot recognize or identify any pattern of responses or learning gaps of students. A student may recognize a false statement as incorrect, but that does not mean that he or she knows what is right. There is no way a teacher can determine whether the student has chosen the answer knowing the correct proposition or not. As already mentioned, large areas of content domain can be tested through true false questions, but there is a downside to it. Not all materials lend themselves to this type of questions. Some materials cannot be phrased into statements and propositions that are either absolutely true or absolutely false. This is particularly true in the case of social science subjects, where absolutely true or false statements are difficult to make without qualifying them further. Guidelines for constructing true false questions. We have already seen that true false questions are easy construct, but this advantage is only relative. The statements used in true false questions should be clear, unambiguous. They should possess the difficulty level appropriate for the grade of students and should be free from irrelevant clues. This means teachers should put in effort and skill to construct a good true false questions. Here are a few rules to abide by when constructing a good true false questions. Rule 1. Avoid using broad general statements which are false unless qualified. Take a look at this example. Here, statement A states that all Indian citizens have the freedom to settle and reside in any part of the country. This statement is generally true, but it should be marked as false because the freedom to settle and reside in any part of the country is subjected to certain restrictions by the state. For example, some areas might be reserved for scheduled tribes where others can't purchase property or land. That is to say, statement A is false unless we qualify it further. Statement B is a revised version of statement A, but the qualifier normally gives students clues regarding the correct answer. Words like sometimes, often, normally, frequently, ordinarily, generally, etc. are more likely reflect true answers. Therefore, it is better to use statements that are definitely true or definitely false without any qualifications. Rule 2. Avoid using negative statements. Use of double negatives should also be avoided when constructing true false questions. Students may overlook the negatives such as no and not. The use of double negatives might confuse them by making the statement ambiguous and unclear. Let us consider two statements. Statement A. It is not true that addition cannot precede subtraction in algebraic operations. Statement B. Addition can precede subtraction in algebraic operations. Here, both statement A and statement B attempt to measure the same knowledge, but statement A contains double negatives which make the statement ambiguous, making it difficult for students to understand and interpret it. Statement B is a better construction than statement A. Rule 3. Avoid using more than one idea in a true false question. A statement should contain only one idea or proposition. However, when a statement is used to test a student's knowledge of cause and effect relationships, two ideas or propositions can be used in one statement. Rule 4. In a test containing a number of true false items, the length of true statements and false statements should be approximately the same. Some teachers have a tendency to add so many qualifying phrases that true statements are almost always longer than false ones. This happens because a true statement should be precisely phrased so that it is definitely and absolutely true. As a result, the length of the statements might give clues to students regarding the correct answer. We can overcome this problem by lengthening false statements through similar kinds of qualifying phrases used in true statements. Rule 5. Similarly, the number of true items and false items in a true-false test should be approximately equal. This is done so that the response sets will not influence the scores of students positively or negatively. We have already seen that some students consistently mark statements as true when they are in doubt. Some others may mark statements as false when they are in doubt. If a test contains 90% true items, then the first response set will be favored. If a test contains 90% false items, then the second response set is favored. However, special care should be taken so that the percentage of true items and false items are not exactly the same. According to educational experts, the best way is to keep the percentage varying between 40% and 60%. Rule 6. In a test, true-false items should not be placed in any systematic pattern. For example, some students may easily identify patterns such as true-false, false-false or true-false, true-false, etc. Therefore, place the true items and false items randomly without giving any clues for a clearly identifiable pattern. Rule 7. Avoid lifting statements directly from textbooks. Some of the statements used in textbooks might not stand as meaningful statements if they are taken out of context. Moreover, the practice of using textbook statements verbatim towards memorization skills rather than knowledge. Rule 8. Make sure that the statement is not too long and complex. The vocabulary should be familiar and simple unless the purpose of the test is to check reading comprehension or vocabulary skills. Similarly, the item should test significant materials, not trivial details. Rule 9. Do not ask students to mark statements of opinion as true or false. However, opinions can be used in fact or opinion items where the purpose of the item is to measure the ability of students to identify facts and opinions. When statements of opinion are asked to be marked as true or false, attribute them to the expert or source. Take a look at the three statements given in the example. A. Solid food should be given to babies only after 6 months. B. According to World Health Organization, the best age to introduce solid food to babies is at 6 months. C. The best age to introduce solid food to babies is at 6 months. Statements A and B are to be judged true or false. It is difficult to answer statement A as either true or false, but statement B can be marked definitely as true or false because the opinion is attributed to the source. Statement C uses a different format, that is fact versus opinion. Here, students can mark it either as fact or as opinion even though the statement is not attributed to any source. Matching type and completion type questions. Apart from the multiple choice and true false questions, two common objective type formats used in our examination system are matching questions and completion type questions. Let us take a look at them in detail. Matching type questions. Matching questions usually consist of two parallel columns. In the first column, a list of words, numbers, symbols or other stimuli is given. The items given in the first column are to be matched to words, sentences, phrases or other possible answers given in the second column. The items in the first column for which students are expected to find a match are called premises. The items in the second column from which students make their selection are called responses. In a matching question, direction should be given to indicate the basis on which students should match the premises to responses. Let us take a look at the given example of matching type questions. Here, items in column A are called premises and items in column B are called responses. The basis on which these items should be matched is given as directions. Matching items are typically used to assess knowledge and comprehension levels in the Bloom's taxonomy. Advantages and limitations. The major advantage of matching type questions is that it can be used to measure vocabulary, dates, events, simple relationships, etc. It is relatively easy to construct and score. The scoring of this type is quite objective too. A major limitation of this type of questions is that they can measure only factual knowledge, which in turn might encourage rote learning and memorization. Most of the time, matching exercises are not used to assess learning skills that are beyond comprehension skills. Moreover, matching items have limited use in classroom tests. Similarly, if the premises and responses contain heterogeneous and widely dissimilar materials, the effectiveness of the item is considerably reduced. Guidelines for constructing matching items. The most important rule of constructing matching questions is to use homogeneous material in a single matching exercise. Also, teachers should be careful to include significant materials. The premises and responses should be kept short and presented in a clear and unambiguous language. The premises should contain no irrelevant clues that might help students to find the correct answer. All the responses included in a matching exercise should be plausible distractors. This will help us ensure the homogeneity of items. Most teachers make the common mistake of keeping the number of premises and responses equal. This may help students to find out the final answers by elimination. It also increases the chances of guesswork. In order to avoid these pitfalls, the number of responses should be more than the number of premises. General directions such as the basis on which students should match the items and the method to record the answers should be stated clearly. If students can select responses more than once, that should also be mentioned clearly in the directions. Responses should be ordered alphabetically or in some other logical arrangement. Like in the case of multiple choice and true false questions, correct answers of matching items should form no identifiable pattern. Completion type questions. Of the four formats of objective items, completion type is the only one in which students are to supply responses. This format presents sentences from which a keyword or a few keywords are omitted. Students are required to fill in the blanks using the correct answer. Hence, completion type questions are commonly referred to as filling the blank questions. This format is most suitable for assessing the ability to recall factual knowledge. Completion questions are most commonly used to measure knowledge of terminology, specific facts, principles, methods, procedures and simple interpretation of data. However, in mathematics and science subjects, completion items are used to assess problem solving skills. For instance, in mathematics, this format is used to assess the ability to solve numerical problems as well the skills in manipulating mathematical symbols. In chemistry, completion items can be used to assess the ability to complete and balance chemical equations. Advantages and limitations. The main advantage of completion questions compared to true false, matching and multiple choice questions is that they eliminate the possibility of guessing. Since the learning outcomes measured through completion questions are relatively simple, they are easier to construct too. However, they have two major limitations: unsuitability to assess major learning outcomes and the difficulty to score. If the question is not carefully phrased, the degree of correctness of responses might vary. Let us consider the following question. Mahatma Gandhi was born in. Here, the teacher might want students to write the city where Mahatma Gandhi was born. But since the question is not carefully phrased, some students might answer Porbandar while others simply write Gujarat or India. Some others might write the year or period in which Gandhi was born. All these answers are correct, which makes the process of scoring difficult. Sometimes students may spell the right answer incorrectly, which also complicates the scoring process. Guidelines for construction. As already seen, the question should be phrased carefully so that students are clear about what they are expected to answer. In order to avoid ambiguity, additional information should also be given if necessary. It is better to avoid indefinite statements that can have several correct answers. The statement should be constructed in such a way that the blank occurs near the end of the statement instead of in the beginning or middle. One statement should not have so many blanks. This makes the item indefinite. Verbal or grammatical clues that might help students guess the answer must be avoided in the statement. If the answers are numerical, it is better to indicate the units in which the answer should be written and the desired degree of accuracy. Do not lift statements from the textbook verbatim. Like in true false questions, statements lifted from textbooks may lose meaning and become ambiguous when they are placed out of the context. Completion type items can also be presented as very short answer questions. Here, questions are asked not in the form of incomplete statements, but as direct questions. The answers to such questions will typically consist of a word or phrase, hence they are widely known as one word answer type. This type is best suitable for students of lower grades. Since very short and direct questions are commonly used in classroom discussions, younger students are more familiar with this type and will be able to answer them more easily compared to completion type questions. Moreover, much of the ambiguity that might occur in incomplete sentences can be avoided if the item is presented as a direct question. Now, you can try to answer the questions given here. 1. What are true false questions? When is this type of questions used? 2. What are the 4 specific uses of true false questions? 3. What are the main advantages of true false questions? 4. What is the rule regarding the number of true and false statements in a true false test? 5. What are the advantages and limitation of matching type questions? 6. What is the typical structure of a matching type item? 7. What is a completion type item? What are its uses? Now, you may go through the reference books for further reading. Measurement and Statics for Teachers, written by Blarcombe MB in 2009, published by Routledge, New York. Essentials of Educational Measurement, written by Ebel R. L. Frisby DA in 1986, published by Prentice Hall, New Jersey. Planning and Implementing Assessment, written by Freeman R. and Lewis R. in 1998, published by Routledge, London. Developing and Validating Multiple Choice Test Items, written by Haladina T. M. in 2004, published by Lawrence Elbaum Associates, New Jersey. Measurement and Assessment in Teaching, written by Lynn R. L. and Miller D. M. in 2008, published by Pearson Education India, New Delhi. Educational Technology, Techniques of Test and Evaluation, written by Singh Y. K., Sharma T. K. and Upadhyaya B. in 2009 and published by APH Publishing, New Delhi. Thank you for watching this program. We can meet again with another topic. Have a nice day.